Saka might have just won Arsenal the Premier League. And before you go crazy, before you go mad, before you run up into the comment section, let me finish talking first. Do yourself a favour. Like the show if you haven't liked already. Subscribe, hit the hype button, get that all done. Why do I say this? Arsenal are in a blip. Arsenal have not been at their best over the course of the last 6 games in the Premier League. The draw away to Sunderland, they weren't at the races against Chelsea, they were off it against Aston Villa and lost, and they were nowhere near their best today. Absolutely nowhere near their best. There was a lack of tempo, there was a lack of cohesion, there was a lack of cutting edge. There was a great moment that brings this to life where Saka plays a brilliant ball across a 6-yard box. Gyökeres hasn't had enough service at the club, there's no doubt. But he should have been there. He was half a yard too slow. He was half a yard off the pace. And that was Arsenal almost all night. Half a yard off the pace. But the reason why I say Saka, if you actually go back and listen to what I said may have just won Arsenal the league. Because if they go level on points, if Man City win tomorrow and they go level on points, the blip has really cost them. I have no doubt in my mind that Arsenal will get back to performing to a much higher, a much more consistent level and go on a really good run of winning games. I believe that's far more likely than the last 4 or 5 matches to continue. You may disagree, but then we can agree to disagree. You see it one way, I see it the other. I don't personally care to debate it. I'll listen to your opinion. I'm just not going to debate it. Maintaining that 5-point, well, it's going to be at least 2 points if City win tomorrow, but putting that 5-point advantage out there, putting that pressure upon City at this stage, if Arsenal go on to win this league title, it may just be tonight. It could be other games, it could be other moments, but it may just be tonight that Arsenal fans, when they're going back over the season, because I know you do this and I've done this, whenever you've won a cup competition, a Champions League, a league, it's amazing to go back and watch the games again. This might be the night where they were off the pace, not quite at it, nowhere near their best, were being nullified by the worst team in the league. All the components to get bantered, ripped into, laughed at, discredited. They still found a way. And yes, they were own goals. But let's be honest, the corner from Bukayo Saka was amazing, almost went straight into the goal. Hits the goalkeeper. Fortuitous in that regard, but if it doesn't hit him, it's going to come out, someone's going to tap it in. The winning goal, it's an own goal because, again, the ball in from Bukayo Saka is amazing. And this is where stats do let us all down. Because Bukayo Saka doesn't get any assists for tonight. But yet, if he plays a 2-yard pass to somebody 40 yards out and they score a 40-yard screamer, he gets an assist. Like, I actually think sometimes you should get assists for own goals if we're being honest about who created that chance. And it might just be, as I say, Arsenal come back to this game, they come back to this moment, they come back to this night at the end of May and say, do you remember when we were close to losing our grip and our advantage at the top of the table? We were going through that bad patch of games and performances. And that own goal happened. That Mascara own goal. That cross from Bukayo Saka. This game here might be etched into folklore at Arsenal. A game they won in a title-winning season where they didn't score a goal and had 1 shot on target, I believe, in the entire game. I think it was actually 2 in the end, looking at the stats. This could be that game. And there is a lot to criticise Arsenal on tonight, and it doesn't need me, although I will say my piece, doesn't need Jamie Carragher, Gary Neville. Arsenal fans will hold court themselves, and they'll be frustrated. Conversations around Victor Gyökeres have to be had. Is it right to be playing him at this particular moment? Is Zubimendi struggling right now? Is a change there potentially needed? Why do Arsenal keep sitting too deep in these close? Why are they not going for that second goal? Why are they not being a little bit more attacking in those phases and maybe being a little bit too negative and inviting that pressure on? It reminded me of the Sunderland game. These conversations must be had. But winning these games is so important. I look at these last 6 matches, 18 points were available, and Arsenal have walked away with 11 points from them. That, for a really bad period, considering 3 of those games are what Paul Scholes considers the big games as well, isn't particularly bad. The only time this becomes a real problem is if the performances don't improve. If the performances don't go back to what they were like 3 or 4 weeks ago. As I've already said, I believe that will happen. In terms of some players tonight for Arsenal that I want to speak on, first of all, I mentioned him already, I'll say it again, Bukayo Saka. I thought it was a constant threat and a constant thorn in the side of Wolverhampton Wanderers tonight. Didn't give up, didn't say die, carried on pushing. And it doesn't matter that he doesn't get the statistics. It doesn't matter that he doesn't get the official GA and output. Nobody who understands and knows football at any particular moment would say anything other than that was inspired by him. I think tonight overall, up until they conceded, I mean, look, I was full of praise for Nkapie again today. Played in a couple of different positions tonight because of the injury to Ben White. Poor in the end for that goal. I think he just sits back a little bit too deep. In fact, as the Wolves strikers pushing him back, was just step up and make him offside and stay in line with your teammates. You didn't need to engage at that particular point because he's in an offside position. And what's he going to... Just leave him. Don't be distracted by him. But you sat back, you got goal side, made him onside, and it gave him the opportunity to score the goal. I thought it was another good performance from Declan Rice, dropping into a deeper role. Did very, very well indeed. I was impressed with the substitutions, if I'm being honest. Trossard again. Like Martinelli just had one of those off nights for him, but Trossard came on and was so much more direct. Probably should have got on the goal sheet as well. And I also was really impressed with Gabriel Jesus when he came on. I know he didn't get the winner, but you know what? He's had a torrid couple of years at Arsenal with injuries more so than anything else. Worked his backside off to come back, and I felt that when he came on, he just gave them a presence. And in fact, if you go back and look when they were sitting deep just before the equaliser, it was Gabriel Jesus, and maybe this stems from a player who has won major trophies, won the Premier League, shouting for his players to get up the other end of the pitch. And they really should have listened to him, because I don't think that goal happens if Arsenal push 5, 10, 15 yards further up the football pitch. But overall, look, Gooners will be angry with elements tonight. They should be over the moon with the win. If you're not over the moon with the win, I can't wait to read and understand why you're not. But you may, as I've already said, you may just come back to tonight in a few months' time, maybe the end of May, and go, maybe that was the night. Maybe those 3 points there made the difference. Maybe the extra pressure it now puts on City, because they've got to win to keep the gap to 2, changes everything. Maybe City go into the game thinking, we win, we go top. That extra incentive pushes them over the line. So important in a title race. So exciting for us as neutrals. I can't wait for the Palace City game tomorrow. Now it's going to be even more enthralling after this as well. A lot of people do want to speak about the offside of Bukayo Saka. Was he in an offside position? Yes, he was. He was in an offside position. Does that mean he was offside? I'm going to read something to you. So when being in an offside position, was he interfering with play? What interfering with play is if this is what it says on the FA's website here. If you run from or in an offside position and impede an opponent's ability to play the ball or block their path, it's an offence, even if you don't touch the ball. If you receive the ball, or if the ball deflects or rebounds off of you. So, from my point of view, that was considered no interference. Because yes, he was in an offside position, and you could argue, well, the defender wouldn't have cleared the ball if he wasn't in an offside position. We've had this debate many times. It doesn't matter what it makes a defender think. Defender's played the ball, he hasn't been impeded. Bukayo Saka hasn't challenged for the ball, hasn't touched the ball, hasn't stopped that defender from getting to the ball, hasn't physically touched them, therefore it isn't offside. It is one of those contentious ones, though. And I understand why a lot of us want the rules changed on that, especially when you concede corners from it and you think, well, should the offside flag have gone up? Until they change that law, they can't give it. So for me, a lot of people saying Wolves were robbed. If that's your opinion, that's your opinion. But I'm reading the law here. He doesn't stop the Wolves defender getting to the ball, doesn't physically touch him, doesn't touch the ball doesn't deflect or rebound off of him. So what you need to do, other than say, well, he distracted the defender. Distracting a defender from an offside position isn't an offside offence. We all know they lied about the Donnarumma goal, the Van Dijk one. That's been proven since. You need to tell me why. I can't wait to hear what you've got to say. But you need to tell me why. Do me a favour, please, if you haven't done so already, and hit that like button. Get yourself subscribing as well to the channel. But Arsenal with a massive, massive win tonight.